Okay, so what if you had a Leopard A1A1, a lightly armored German main battle tank with a 105mm gun, right? Well, what if you pulled in America, you decide, let's put a really big gun on something that shouldn't have a really big gun. I present to you the Leopard A1A1 L44. The Leopard A1A1 L44 is a premium tank and sits at a comfortable BR at 9.0, which is an alright lineup. At this BR, you can bring the Leopard 1A5, which is a pretty good MBT. Another MBT to bring is the oddly looking M48 Super. For light tanks, you can bring the TAM and the TAM2 IP. If you for some reason have these, you can bring the South African Class 3 IP and the Canadian C2A1. Finally, for anti-air, you can bring the Leopard. What makes this Leopard 1 different from the others is that it features a 120mm L44 gun, unlike the usual 105mm L7A3. The L44 is also used on the Leopard 2 series, excluding the 2A6. Your reload is pretty mediocre, being 8.7 seconds. With an ace crew, this can be lowered to 6.7 seconds. Despite being 120mm, you do not get access to the standard L44 shells, and are stuck with the DM13 APFS-DS and the DM12 HeatFS. The main shell you'll be using is the DM13, which has a max penetration value of 393mm, which allows it to get through most armor at the tier without an issue, and will most likely get the kill in at least 1 or 2 shots if you aim correctly. You also get a nice laser rangefinder, which allows you to auto-range your shots. Since the Leopard A1A1 L44 is a premium, you will not have to worry about going through the stock grind. The Leopard A1A1 L44 has a roof-mounted 7.62mm machine gun, and a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun. The gunner sight has access to a pretty good 12x zoom, and the commander sight has access to a whopping 20x zoom, but unless you use the commander sight very often, it's not that useful. The gunner sight has access to Generation 1 thermals, significantly improving your combat capability. Like most NATO MBTs at its tier, the commander sight only has night vision. The armor and survivability is the worst part of this tank's capabilities. However, if you are familiar with the Leopard 1 series playstyle, this should not be much of an issue. Nonetheless, this is still where the tank performs the worst. The frontal plate is an underwhelming 70mm of armor. It also has a track mounted on the frontal plate, providing an extra 10mm of armor. Regardless, all guns except low caliber autocannons and machine guns will go through. Your sides will not allow any angling, so do not put effort into angling. It is literally not worth it at all. Your sides are very thin like all tanks, along with the rear. When looking at the tank from the front, the left side has 3 crew members lined up, and if penetrated by APFS-DS, it will most likely result in a crew knockout. The right side has 1 crew member, but your ammo is stored directly in the front, and if penetrated, will result in an ammo blowout. Your turret armor is very weak as well, varying between 120mm of armor and 40mm. None of this will stop any shells. If you get lucky, it might ricochet, but do not rely on this armor at all. The first stage ammo consists of 11 shells, while the second stage has 30 shells. I suggest bringing 15 to 20 shells because ammo blowouts are very common when frontally penned, and reducing the chance is your best bet. To somewhat compensate for the horrible armor and survivability, you get 8 smoke grenades. 4 are deployed in one interval, which can save you when you know you're about to get shot, or if you know an AGGM is headed your way. To start off, the Leopard A1A1 L44 has an 830 horsepower engine, allowing for a solid top speed of 65 km per hour and a decent reverse speed of 25.3 km per hour. In most combat situations, when going over mounds, going through mud, and swerving around, you can expect to go around 30 to 40 km per hour. When stationary, and even moving, it turns left and right pretty well, allowing for quick adjustments to adapt to the ever-changing battlefield within War Thunder. If you are used to Soviet MBTs and are wanting to play Germany with this tank, it will feel like a big improvement compared to T-72s and T-64s, which are pretty sluggish when put against NATO MBTs. Your horizontal turret traverse speed is 20 degrees per second, which allows you to aim at targets relatively quickly, but it is nothing special. Just like the other Leopard ones, you have a gun depression of -9 degrees. It is pretty decent and allows you to take shots from hills without too many problems, but it is a bit worse than the Americans and British with their MBTs at the tier being -10 degrees with gun depression, but typically it works fine nonetheless. Your vertical targeting speed is 3.4 degrees per second. There isn't much to talk about this, it isn't amazing, but as long as you are careful, there should not be much of a problem in most situations. The Leopard A1A1 L44 is a very playstyle specific tank. Despite being a medium, it cannot take any hits. The armor is very squishy and will most likely be the main reason you die. I suggest not getting this tank unless you are accustomed to the Leopard 1's playstyle, or if you are up for a deep learning curve in playstyle. Bundish Ver doctrine at the time was mobility and firepower, unlike the Wehrmacht's armor and firepower doctrine, so the learning curve will be pretty steep. The gun is pretty good, however it lacks some of the more powerful shells, but it will still get through most armor without an issue. You just need to aim in the right spots to be entirely successful. I hope you all enjoyed the video. These videos take me a lot of time and effort, so just leaving a like would make me pretty happy. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, go ahead and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Have a good rest of your day or night. Viper out.